All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. And joining us now is Mike Wilner of the Toronto Star. We haven't talked to you since before the season started. A lot has changed, as we just mentioned, off the air. One being Jose Berrios and Yusei Kikuchi. I mean, combined over the last two starts, 12 and two-thirds inning, 8 hits, 17 Ks, 2 walks, no earned. Mike, what's going on? What's changed here?
I mean, you can go back to Kikuchi's whole season and Berrios' last three. They're the thing is, and this is kind of what I was trying to tell people before the season, at least about Berrios, is that he's a really good pitcher, and it was very easy to just write him off because he had that horrible ERA last year, and it was last in the major leagues among qualified starting pitchers. But if you dig deep into Berrios' season and don't just look at the ERA and say, oh, he's terrible, you see that he had 17 quality starts last year. And more than half the time he was out there, he was really good. And the Blue Jays went 16 and 1 in those 17 quality starts. He was really, really good more than half the time. And he was awful about 8 or 9 times, and that's what led to the inflation of the ERA. But he's not someone who every time you threw him out on the mound, he put you in a big hole and you were done. What he had to do was just sort of calm those blow-ups, and the first 2 starts of the season didn't look like he was going to do that, but then the last 3, he's been phenomenal. So far 60% of his starts this year have been amazing and 40% of them have been crap. I expect that ratio to change a little bit, but it's a little bit better than it was last year. And his is incredible. He's throwing the ball harder than he almost ever before. He's confident, and the rest of the staff is doing so well that everyone's sort of latching onto each other. But Jose Berrios, again, is a really good pitcher. Yusei Kikuchi made some serious changes in the offseason, and the pitch timer really is helping him out because, we could see last year how much the gears were grinding in his head between pitches and how much he was thinking and overthinking and getting himself in trouble, and his confidence was shaken and all that stuff. None of that has happened this year. We've seen him bounce back. He gives up a home run, he gets the next 2 guys out instead of walking a guy and then giving up a double. Last time out, he had a 4-pitch walk in I think the 4th or 5th inning, and then he got behind in the count to each of the next 2 hitters, but he got them both out. Last year, that doesn't happen. So, they're both, well, Berrios I don't think he's improved. I think he's sort of getting back to what he was before last year, which I believe is an anomaly. Kikuchi seems to be improved. And don't sleep on the fact that the Blue Jays outfield defense is so much better than it was last year. I mean, you could pick almost any game that they've played and look at a fly ball and say, okay, that's a double last year. That's a triple last year. Those balls fall in last year, and they're just not falling in this year, and that's helping out the pitchers a ton.
How surprised are you by how quickly this outfield has adjusted to the new stadium? Or the renovated stadium, I should say.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know that they have yet because there hasn't been anything weird happen yet, right? We haven't had one of those balls come off the right field wall where it's curved and kicked back into left center. I think that the thing is they've got 3 center fielders out there and 2 of the best center fielders in the game, so that gives you an advantage no matter where you're playing. But I'm still waiting for one of those nooks or crannies to be hit and to see what happens.
Mike, I want to ask you about the bullpen. There's been a lot of questions about John Schneider's deployment of that. What have your thoughts been on how he's utilized his pen early on this season?
I've not had a single issue with it. I know that there are always questions about bullpen deployment when relievers don't pitch well. When relievers do pitch well, there are never any questions about bullpen deployment. So for me, I think that's it. I was reminded with Kikuchi's last start that he came out after 5 2/3 innings, throwing a shutout. With Berrios' last start, he came out after 7 innings, throwing a shutout. Both relievers that followed, it was Swanson for Kikuchi. I can't remember who came in for Berrios. Might have been Pearson. But both relievers put up a 0. So we didn't hear anything about it. Alek Manoah comes out after 7 innings, throwing a shutout in New York. And John Schneider's a terrible manager because he took out Alek Manoah while he was throwing a shutout because Jimmy Garcia gave up 2 runs, right? So it's all results-based, all of it. I think he's doing fine. Like, I can't think of a point in time where I thought, well, why is he bringing this guy in? And I know fans are reactive and think that every reliever should have an ERA of 0 and strand every single inherited runner that they inherit. But things don't work that way. Guys give up runs sometimes, and you never know what day guys are going to give up runs. And Jimmy Garcia is going to be a big part of this bullpen. He was a big part of it last year, and so I expect him to be used in leverage spots, and Swanson and Pearson and Meza and everybody. So it's there are people complaining about bringing Jordan Romano in a tie game in the bottom of the ninth. Like, of course you bring your closer in a tie game in the bottom of the ninth. There might not be a 10th. You want to use your best pitcher to make sure you get there. So, yeah, I mean, bullpen complaints are always about performance and never about anything else for the most part.
We're speaking with Mike Wilner of the Toronto Star. Continuing with the bullpen, we got to see Nate Pearson work an inning in the last series. What was your first impressions of him back with the ball club?
First impression is he drilled the first guy he faced. So the early impression wasn't the best, but then he got the next 3 out. And look, Nate Pearson, healthy. We've said it for years. Like, everybody watching the Blue Jays has said it for years that he could be a really good high leverage late inning reliever with his stuff. Just let it all out for an inning, maybe 2. But the Blue Jays front office kept insisting, no, we're not giving up on him as a starter. At least he's going to be a bulk guy who can throw like 4 or 5 innings behind an opener. And they continued to try to press that until last year, when first he had mono, and then he hurt his a lat muscle. So he only pitched like 25 2/3 innings last year. So they said, fine, okay, no more starting. You're going to be a reliever. Go to the back of the bullpen. Go throw super hard and get people out. And it started in the Winter League in the Dominican, and he was incredible. And he was incredible in Buffalo. And, he gives them another huge power arm for, all the people who were complaining that the Blue Jays don't have enough swing and miss, when what they really meant was that they don't have enough guys to throw 98. Here's somebody who throws 100 in the back of the bullpen. And, I have a feeling he's going to grow into a position where he's going to become one of the most trusted big arms back there pretty soon.
Okay, so the Jays open up a 3-game homestand tonight against Seattle. Publicly, obviously, this may seem just like another series, but privately, inside of that locker room, do you believe it means maybe a little bit more than that?
Maybe a tiny little bit. I mean, I've talked to a few guys about it, and I've tried to get them to say that. But yeah, there's a huge difference between a series at the end of April and a series in October in the playoffs. So even if the Blue Jays sweep them, and they do have Manoah, Gausman, and Bassett going, so they have the pitching advantage in each game. But even if the Blue Jays sweep them, it's still not going to be appropriate revenge for what happened last year by any means. That doesn't happen until you beat them in a playoff series, and it might not happen until you beat them by coming back from 7 runs down in the 6th inning, which may never happen again. But I don't think it's a measuring stick. I mean, they've already played the Rays and the Astros and the Yankees and played really, really well against them. And I think they know how good they are. But I do think it's more than just another series. It'll be nice if they can beat them. Then there will be a lot of reliving a lot of bad memories over the course of the next 3 days.
Now, Mike, Teoscar Hernandez, it's somewhat of a homecoming for him this weekend. So far early on in the season, have you noticed there's been a void of his presence in the clubhouse? And a second part of that question is, from what you've seen with the Seattle Mariners, a team that had, lofty expectations coming into the season, what have you noticed from them so far this season?
Honestly, I haven't really been paying much attention to the Mariners so far this season, but I know they're, disappointing, but not terrible. They lost Robbie Ray, which is a big deal for them. and that's going to hurt because they're built around good pitching and enough offense. So not having Robbie Ray is going to be a bit of a problem, but they haven't noticed that really that much yet. I think he's missed 3 starts so far. He's going to miss the rest of the year. It's funny, you know, when you ask about noticing the lack of a presence around the clubhouse, because not that he wasn't a presence, and he definitely was, but there's so much coming and going in baseball. You know, so often people you get used to seeing every day are just gone the next day, and you move along. And that's sort of what's happened. I know Vladdy's in touch with Teoscar like every day. Their friends are still friends. They're just not in the clubhouse anymore. So it's not that you don't notice when someone leaves. It's just that a new guy comes in, and you're just so used to that happening all the time. It's not like Teoscar was this big, huge clubhouse presence, at least not when the media was around. But, you know, he's gone. Kevin Kiermaier's got a locker in basically the same spot, and he's here now. And Brendan Belt's here now, and Dalton Varsho's here now. So you just, you know, it's out guy or old guy out, new guy in, and that's kind of the way the game works. It's very strange how quickly you get used to that, but you get used to it.
Yeah, and things just move forward. Mike Wilner of the Toronto Star. Mike, thanks so much for doing this. You're fantastic as always.